Hey you guys, this is the Night Class Wars final for January 2016. We have Cypress here who's at 7.18 million BR. I think that's with pots, maybe he's just hiding the pots. I hope he's potted up. And I'm looking at these fights for the first time with you guys. I did edit through the video to clean it up, but I didn't spy on the video, on the fights at all. So you guys are checking this out with me for the first time. And his cache is loading at the moment. But if you hadn't noticed already, he's wearing my least favorite outfit on the face of Wartune. That's probably not true. I'm sure you could find one that I dislike more, but this is definitely up there with like top 3 outfits that I hate the most at the moment. And so I'm just going to loathe my friend who is his pilot playing at the moment. Very, very good player, but really terrible choice in clothing. Who's like, oh yeah, I really want to check out that knight with the strappy leather sandals. It's just terrible. Anyway. Okay, so now that I have that out, we can get to his gameplay. He has a really awesome setup with a Frigga as his main sylph, and so for, the physical attack classes, that's very appealing. Frigga and Freya deal magical attack, and they have an assortment of useful AoEs and skills and things, and so I think that's a very nice choice here. And then for the support, he also has another Frigga and a Wind Troop. So we got 2 steals in there. We'll be able to see his skills on the sylphs once we get a break or after the next fight. But I imagine that there's at least a shield on there. We saw that at the beginning. A steal and either a heal or another attack. I'm not sure. Probably a heal. Yeah, a heal. So go shield, steal, heal. That's what I did on my Freya this month. I'm probably going to adjust it, just because that shield does not cover the whole team if it's used as the first skill. So I think you need to put it as a second skill. So he's stuck with that situation right now as well. So I'm a little bit biased since he's a very, very good friend of mine. I'm friends with the owner as well, but the pilot in particular is a very good buddy of mine. And so I do think that his gameplay is very, very strong. But I'll try not to be totally biased. Here he's got a Chaos on him, but the Agoran shield is not a problem with the Chaos. It doesn't go over to the other player. He's going for a basic attack. I think the logic here is probably shield, then basic attack, then sylph, and so that's 3 turns on the Chaos, so he doesn't have to deal with the Chaos in sylph mode. If he had immediately shielded and then gone into sylph mode, which is probably what he would like to do if he weren't Chaos, then he'd be in a little bit worse of a situation because his first sylph skill he would end up chaosed. Or he'd have to use a rune. If he uses the amnesia, it would hit the kid. If he uses a heal, there's no point because he has full health. So, I think that's the logic. That's the logic if I were playing this knight right now, which I don't play, well, I dabble with knights. Probably archers are actually the class that I play the least, even though they're quite fun to play. So down goes Eriko, and the first 2 opponents definitely have a BR disadvantage, though I think Teflon, that first opponent, had some really odd troop choice. It was like fire and electro, which seems a little weird. Wind and water seems a little bit more basic, traditional, but yeah, I think everybody deserves to try out different setups. I think the troops, though, it's people have really figured out what matters, and I think unless you want an electro troop for some really crazy, like M damage setup, and you want shock chain in the mix, I can't imagine what the purpose of a electro sylph. And fire, definitely no. But here we have another odd troop choice. Dark sylph and a water sylph as the troops. So dark, I really, it doesn't buff or debuff. When you're making troop choices, you want to base it on, how are they going to support your main sylph, not, what are they going to be able to do on their own. Which for a dark sylph isn't much, since everybody protects against dark resistance to some extent. Here we have an Odin, so of course, wow, Cypress really dealing a ton of damage just with that steal. So I'm not sure if it's just sheer, Radagast not protecting against, wind and water, or if it's, oh god, okay, I think it's just Cypress being really strong, and perhaps Radagast not having great M-def. Cypress and his pilot, Mago, my buddy, go for this setup with tons of physical defense, so he doesn't take much damage in class mode. It sort of forgoes the MDef a little bit, and pretty much like every single knight that I know does that, and it sort of drives me crazy, and is sort of like, well, maybe I just missed the memo and don't know what I'm doing. Not totally sure, but I don't like it in particular. It's my one beef with the Knights, is how much they, go after physical defense when they naturally have tons of physical defense. Whatever, that Knight just got eaten up by Cypress's Frigga, so learn a lesson from getting eaten alive. Here's Nuva with a Thor. Good to see a Thor here. It's sort of fun to see the whole mix. You do want all the elements to be a threat, so a possibility. And I feel like in the mages, for the most part, other than water, all of the elements can be quite problematic, so you have to protect against all of them. And it looks like with the other classes that's the case. I think Odin is a bit more problematic, and so everybody protects against dark and light. Odin, the attack type, whether it's magical attack or physical attack, really does depend on your opponent's physical defense or magical defense, and same with the resistances. So it's pretty nasty. But here, Nuva not holding up too great, but does still have all the troops and stuff for support. Oh, we have a heal. And so Cypress doesn't go with the drop the kid technique, which is something that I do pretty much every single class wars. So he is at some risk of taking a timer loss, which would be a little bit of a pity. But yeah, so there definitely is some risk there with a timer. And I have an opponent here who doesn't have the kid on, so he definitely wants to clear everything at the moment. But I mean, it's surprising. I mean, I don't think we've had anything go to timer yet. He's killed off everybody. Here's Hot One, another huge tune. Somebody, our TOK is generally plagued with knights. It's almost always knights and maybe one archer. So B has been in there out of the archers, has been very strong and been in TOK Nightmare. But up until the knighthood stuff, Chili did knight, so he's been in TOK Nightmare, which has been a total pain in the ass having a mage in there. But in general, it's always knight. So here's one of them, Hot One, who tends to be in there as well. So it's usually Hot One, Trinity, and Cypress, I think. Yeah, I think those. Oh no, Enchantress. I don't know, the Knights have so much BR, and I think they have so much natural, BR advantage because they have so many HP passives and things. Wait, so Hot One, Enchantress, no, it goes Enchantress, Trinity, or Trinity and Enchantress, and Cypress, and all four of them are somewhere out in there and can be in TOK Nightmare. That's for absolute sure. That's a possibility. Maybe Hot One might be the lowest BR of those four, actually. Don't hold me to any of this. Hot One has a Thor as a troop, which, again, sort of an odd choice. Really, really high BR can, maybe give you a BR advantage. I do think Hot One has more BR than Cypress at the moment because of that Thor troop. But is it worth it? I don't know. At the moment, in an odd situation, Cypress really does need to hurry up, though. And don't heal that troop. Don't do it. Arg. Don't like the healing of the troop stuff. I think the shields would be a better bet, actually, than this heal. Because Cypress doesn't need the heal, and the troop definitely doesn't want the heal. Because right now, Hot One's back into stealth mode. And probably going to do some really, really big damage on this troop. And you always have to be wary of what you're getting yourself into with a timer. Yeah, so each one of those hits from that Odin Delphic was like 1,000,000. So, well, then how does that troop have so much HP? I don't know, too many heals going on Cypress's side, and not enough damage. Does get a stun though, but only for one turn. These guys must have lots of influence or something. Oh, so that happened really fast, but he must have lost on timer. I think I saw a little flicker of with a loss. But yeah. I mean, it did look like it wasn't going his way unless he goes for the kill. And when you have the kid on, you always have to be of the mindset. Like, if you're going to bring your kid, that kid better be helping you either just barely live or to kill off your opponent. Like, if there's no way you can live without the kid, then yeah, you have to bring the kid. Like, you'll see in the archers, I'm sure Robin's gonna bring her kid because she's up against some, like, horrifying stack of archers over there. I don't have Robin's video. It's not from her perspective, but you will see her in the video. But yeah, so that's a tough loss. And I mean, I've talked to Mago about the gameplay, and he was pretty upset that he took a timer loss or took a loss in general. But he has set high expectations for himself, and I think that's good when you're playing games or doing sports or whatever it is. To set high expectations for yourself, and just the lows can be sort of bad. You guys have heard me beating myself up over certain losses or whatever, and that can happen with competitive people. It's probably why we get along well. But yeah, so a tough loss there. Now on to Trinity, another huge player. Trinity's tattoos these days really terrifying. So yeah, all of these knights are just horrifying. It's like, it doesn't look that different than, the mage fights these days, or it won't seem that different from the archers. But just know that the knight BRs are just that much stronger. And the average is just like 500k higher than all of the other classes. Maybe more than 500k, I don't know, but whatever it is, the knights are the the cashier class out of my cross server section, and they have the biggest BRs. Absolutely. So Trinity's troops are out of commission. I'm getting a little concerned again because we're seeing Cyprus's troops just don't want to die. But it looks like his resistances are looking pretty good. Must be protecting against Trinity or protecting against probably Friggas is my guess. So wind and water, because Trinity's not doing much to Cyprus's troops. We saw with the Odins. Well, some of those weaker Odins at the beginning were not doing much to Cyprus either. But Trinity has that little Ray 7 setup where she has Wind Sylph as her main and then 2 Friggas as the troops. And for the Knights, not working out so great. Personal opinion, not a great choice for the Knights. Again, Wind is only physical attack, so it's just not going to have the same punch that it does with the Mages. Maybe you can get away with that with the Archers. That was a buy. I didn't know that for the other classes, the buys have different names. For the mages, it's Whitley, but for the knights, it's something different with a W. I think I spied at least one buy out of the archers as well, and it's a different name, which I just didn't know. I call them Whitleys all the time instead of buys, but for the other classes, they aren't Whitleys. So got a shield going. A little bit early, maybe. I don't know, those shields have quite a few turns on them. Maybe he just wants to make sure that it gets in before going into Sylph mode. So there's an AoE on the kid. I don't know if that'd be my favorite choice. Definitely want Damnation in there. He has the damage boost. I don't even know why you bother with that heal skill, because the kid, I mean, what do you need that heal from the kid for? Cypress doesn't take any damage in class mode because he has so much physical defense, and then he gets into Sylph mode and he has the support troops, so I don't even know if he really needs that kid there. He can drop it, in my opinion. He's going to heal for the troops. I don't like this healing the troops thing. Not my favorite choice. Maybe if you can just kill off everybody, you're not worried about having to heal your troops. But personally, I would rather shield the troops than heal them. At least for me, for my money. Oh, that steel just wiped Flash out. I don't know if Flash just doesn't have any MDef. That's my guess. I think that the reason why this Frigga is working so well and dealing so much damage is because Knights just don't like MDef. I think it's not even like, it's like they don't even try to protect against magical attack. It really is a thing. You just go look at any knight you know and like count how many MDev gems they have, and it's probably half as many as they should have. And if they have 0, then, well, math-wise you can tell that that's, not gonna work out. But anyway, so here we have Vardoom. I think we see his buddy Poison Arrow in the archers. another strong player in their bunch for really anything. Titan War, Chaos War is very, very tough. I think I've fought Vardoom in BG, not super recently, but probably within the past month, and he was quite strong. But Cypress, as far as just sheer BR goes, is on a different level. For sure, you know, when we think about like the mage section, it's sort of like Ray, Chili, and myself and Azure and Solara sort of at the top tier of BRs lately. And for the Knights, it's even more BR, but the top players would be Cypress, Trinity, Hot One, Enchantress. Muzin is getting up there. We'll see Muzin at some point, but yeah. The Knights are just crazy. So there's the Ice Bolt. Did a little less damage than I thought it would, just having seen previous fights. But yeah, still dealing quite a bit. Vardoom actually has an Apollo Shield, which I don't think we've seen much out of Apollo Shield. Probably not that helpful before class mode, but maybe after class mode it is a good thing. Apollo Shield would be better if you could shield your troops, but you can't get the troops without going into Sylph mode first. Very defensive setup for Vardoom. Especially with Odin. Odin's the tankiest, you know, has all those passives to reduce damage and whatnot, so Vardoom should not be using Devour Soul, though. He should not be trying to pick up HP at this point. You know, wait around for a rune or something, but deal an AoE. There we go. That light arrow, or whatever skill that is, I think hits 2 to 3 targets, or it's 1 to 2 targets, so not a great option. He's out of awakening points, so the Frigga and troops, and well, the Frigga and the Goddess Prosperity doing their job there. He's just barely gonna make it to timer, but does lose. But yeah, just didn't get enough damage out on Vardoom's part. Oh, and we're just talking about Muzin, and here he is. He's gotten quite strong lately. And he has an Odin named Godzilla. So here we have I think what you think of like a typically strong setup for somebody who has a couple of merge sylphs and whatever. Odin sylph as the main sylph, and then Frigga and Wind Troop as the troops. So this should be tough. So he is taking quite a bit more damage in class mode than Cypress is. Again, because Cypress's physical defense is outrageous. I've given Mago crap about putting so much physical defense on Cypress before, but he doesn't seem to really care what I have to say. We're competitive. There's only so much you listen to your rivals. You're like, yes, that is a good idea, and then I'm going to go do whatever I was going to do, you know, 5 minutes ago. So he's got the damage increase going, but he's stunned, so he can't really do much about it. But kid's dead now anyway. Got the steal going, so Muzin needs to hurry up with his Delphics, or he's not going to get much out of them. Muzin does have that AoE Delphic that just like sucks up all the life out of everything. It doesn't deal a whole lot of damage, but it doesn't really matter because it heals back so much. It doesn't like you can do like nothing to your opponent and somehow you have full health the next move. So that's a bit nasty. Odin truly is the survival sylph. In a lot of ways, Frigga can still be slower just because of the heals, but, I mean, as far as just, like, dealing damage and surviving for long periods of time, Odin is the most well-rounded of the sylphs. Getting that Tsunami out. He's going to be taken out of class mode unless these troops send out some steals really soon. Oh, he is going to make it to another steal. So it's not knocked out of Sylph mode yet. Between the seals, and then depending on what kind of passives you have on your sylphs, which Frigga does have some passives to reduce your awakening point loss and things like that. You can really stay in Sylph mode for very long periods of time. Depending whether it's BG and I have a lot of passives on my Sylphs that give me a lot of awakening points, or whether it's Class Wars with the troops and the awakening passives. People have commented saying, like, why are you in Sylph mode so long? Why, like, how can you just stay there? It really is just all about the passives. That's the main part. And then in Class Wars, it's controlling your steals. So not using them all at once, or else you sort of waste them, but also making sure they get out in a timely manner to control your opponent's awakening points. And here we have Sensei. Sensei's got the Thor on. With Thor, you always have to be a little bit careful. I always worry about them out of the mages because I don't bring my kid. So I'm very, very vulnerable to somebody stunning me and then going into Sylph mode, and I can't protect myself, and I can't get into Sylph mode with the support from the troops and everything. And so there's a high risk of getting knocked out very quickly. Depending on how you set up the Thor, though, Cypress is not in a huge problem, or is, not at enormous amount of risk, because Thor, some of the skills deal physical attack and some of them deal magical attack. So you do need to be conscious of how you set up the Thor, because the Delphics, a lot of them are great options. They all deal a lot of damage, but you do need to decide on which ones you want the most. Some people would say, oh, it's better to have a mix of physical and magical. I actually think that picking one is probably the better bet, so that your Thor has a little bit more like clarity of purpose. But here we are. His troops are out. I don't know, is Frigga and I didn't catch the other troop. I was not paying attention. I think that Odin in the back, though, is for the kid, isn't it? No, it isn't. It must be the troop. Why else would it be so big? Not totally sure, but takes a nasty loss there. Cypress winning a lot of these at completely full health. The setup he has is just like so. It's so easy to support him, really. So that's the big problem. Here, Enchantress has got, or she has a Frigga troop and then a Thor troop. Really, these knights are killing me with the troop choices, though. It's just... that Thor is not gonna help you. I promise it won't. Here, Cypress going for the stun. Oh, and it hits the kid. Doesn't even stun the kid. It's actually very easy to get high influence on your kids, though. I think my kid has more, or depending on which one of my kids I'm using, has higher influence than I do. So, I mean, technically, you shouldn't be able to stun them very easily. I don't know if he's using his mouse to click some of these things so that we can see which skill he's using, which is very thoughtful of him if he's hovering, using his mouse just for us, just for the sake of the audience, or if he actually does just use his mouse when he's playing it. Because I only use hotkeys. I only use the mouse to hover over the buffs and debuffs and stuff to see what's going on there. Otherwise, I'm just clicking on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Z or X. Well, in R and R or F, but I don't bring a kid here, so R and F are irrelevant. Enchantress in some big trouble here, but if she does make it into Sylph mode, again, Knights have high survival. She's not taking a lot of damage, so it looks like she's holding up better against this Frigga than most. She might be taking just as much damage, but has more HP, or some situation like that. But, yeah, actually Enchantress in decent position here if she can get into Sylph mode and get a good hit on the troops. That's bad for Cypress's timer. But it looks like she's screwed out of a win because she keeps on getting all these steals. Let's see if she can get one. And she goes for Devour Soul. Do they not have AoEs? She must have AoEs, right? It's an Odin. How can she not? Ugh, killing me, people. There's the AoE Delphic for the heal. Okay. Well, think Cypress is getting a little bit lucky because these Odin users are not going after their AoEs when they get into Sylph mode immediately. That's happened at least twice now. Here's Bukaz, something like that. Bucky? I don't know. He's actually quite strong, at least, you know, by normal people standards, but maybe by knight standards in my in my crossover section, not that huge. Doesn't have a red Odin. I'm wondering, did we spot anybody who didn't have a merged or, you know, red Sylph out of the knights? I imagine this might be the only class that had, like, literally everybody. There's no, you know, like, modest casher, like, still high casher, but, like, slightly, you know, less ridiculous casher that can make it into the knights. I don't think this is the right class for that. I don't think you make it into this knight section without being, quite aggressive about the money in this game. And again with the Thor troop. Is this like a real thing? Killing me, people. Definitely not killing Cypress with that. But you are killing me. There we are. I guess Cypress's one loss to Hot One. Hot One had that Thor troop as well, but I do not think that was like... I think Hot One won that because of the survival and because, you know, Cypress's troops were getting healed so much, and Hot One got a good AoE on them and stuff. But as far as just like the actual use of this Thor troop, which everybody seems to be, Phoenix has it as well. Are they just going for high BR setups? Is that like... is that what happens in the Knights? This is incredible. Anyway, but it looks like VNotch is AFKing at the moment. And so Cypress is at 13 wins, and Hot One is at 13 wins as well. So Hot One must have taken a loss to somebody else. And so as long as Cypress wins, I think that he has the BR advantage. Which is surprising because Hot One had the 3 huge Sylphs on. What is going on? Huh. Well, alright. Oh, big hit there. That's a Delphic. The Delphic actually deals less than that Ice Bolt, I think. But dealt like over 600k. But there we are. Cypress now at 14 wins. Hot One at 14 wins. Cypress takes the lead with BR. So here we have the standings again. So we're gonna see Lil Bish's Class Wars as well after this upload, and so Cypress takes first on BR. I know that he, you know, my buddy Mako, his pilot, was very upset that he didn't sweep 15-0, but I think this was actually a very clean win. Not necessarily because it was, you know, the most perfect play he has, but just looking at the opponents and how they were playing and everything, this is very well deserved. And so so then we have Hot One in second, big congrats, and then Muzin, Vardoom, Trinity. Oh, so Vardoom up there, doing pretty well. So that's very nice. So big congratulations to Cypress for this win, and thank you so much for the footage. It was very nice. And so I hope you guys enjoyed being able to see the Knights out of my crossover section. A lot of really strong players, and so I hope in the future we can see this again. So take care and have a very good day.